Ladies and gentlemen, good day and welcome to the Q1 FY22 earnings conference call of Polymedicure Limited, hosted by ICICI Securities Limited. As a reminder, all participant lines will be in the listen-only mode, and there will be an opportunity for you to ask questions after the presentation concludes. Should you need assistance during the conference call, please signal an operator by pressing star then zero on your touchtone phone. Please note that this conference is being recorded. I now hand the conference over to Mr. Vinay Bafna from ICICI Securities. Thank you, and over to you, sir.
Thank you, Rajita. Good afternoon, everyone, and I welcome you to the Polymedicure Q1 FY22 post-earnings conference call. We have with us Mr. Himanshu Baid, MD, and Mr. Naresh Vijayvargiya, CFO, representing the company on the call. On behalf of ISEC, I would like to thank Polymed to give us this opportunity to host the call. Over to you, sir.
Yeah, good afternoon, and thank you, Vinay. Good afternoon, all the friends on the call, and trust I think all of you are safe and doing well. So, I'd like to welcome you to Q1 FY22 earnings conference call, and thanks for joining in today. So, I think first of all, last 3 months has been a very turbulent for everybody. I think whether it's from the healthcare industry or other industries, everybody got impacted. And for us, I think the initial 2 months, 2.5 months, we were running at a little lower capacity than would have been usually doing it. And the main reason was that we had to reduce the number of people in the plant because we were very careful about the COVID pandemic not spreading to our manufacturing facilities. And we had to screen people almost on a daily basis. And whoever was, suspect or really suspected, we had to really take him out of the plant. And even our offices were shut down for almost 2.5 months. So we went through a lot of, crisis, I would say crisis mode, but we were able to manage that very well. And I'd like to compliment here our team, who in spite of all the huge challenges we faced, we kept on running the plant, ensuring that we supply products to hospitals in India in a timely way. We also developed some new product during this period. We made a new Y connector. We developed in a very short period of 7-8 days, and which could connect to oxygen, lines together from one cylinder. And this product we made free of patent, and we disclosed the designs to a lot of other people, so that this product can be very quickly sent to hospitals where they can where there was a shortage of oxygen. So so I should compliment here the team, the R&D team, engineering team, which came with this ideas after seeing what was happening out in the market, and in India. And also, I think what we realized was that certain products, the demand really skyrocketed, especially the respiratory care range products we manufacture. And we were not geared for it because we never expected the demand to go up so quickly in such a huge way. And we ramped up capacity for most of the products. We have oxygen masks, we have nebulizer masks, we have nasal tubes, we have ventilator circuits which are connected to the ventilators. So all these products which we were making in maybe a lower volume, we had to scale up capacity in just 2 or 3 weeks. And we again ramped up the capacity by 3 to 4 times in less than 3 to 4 weeks. So that talks about the agility and how fast we were reactive to what was happening in the market. And we supplied most of these products to hospitals in the country. Though exports were banned for these products because government put some prohibition because there was huge shortage in the country. But we were able to cater a lot of hospitals with these products around the country. So in this period, there were a few other challenges also which we faced. One was that the raw material cost has gone up very, very high in last, I would say, 6 months. And there was a shortage of raw material because the supply chain was completely disrupted because of lockdown and COVID pandemic. So, but fortunately for the company, we were holding enough inventory. Normally we hold 2 to 3 months of inventory for critical raw materials. So we were able to function well during this period. And some of the materials which were in short supply, we air freighted them to ensure that the plants were running continuously. And also on the supply chain front, the freight costs also increased almost 4 to 5 times. So whether it was the air freight cost, whether it was sea freight cost, there's a massive jump in these costs over last 6 months. Today, even to find a container for export, it takes almost 15 to 20 days, because today there are no containers available for exports, and the freight rates are changing daily. Whether we want to import raw materials, whether we want to export, because we are majority export-driven company, and there's a huge challenge in that front. So, but in the first quarter, if you see, normally our domestic revenue is 30% and export revenue is 70%. But in the first quarter, because there was a huge ramp-up demand in the country for respiratory products and some diagnostic products, so our sales distribution changed slightly in the first quarter. Our domestic sales were around 38% and export sales were around 62%. So I think that the flexibility we have today in manufacturing and the way we can quickly turn around from one region to another region, I think that agility has actually helped the company to sustain the current level of business, and of course it gives us more power in future to expand our base in India and also in overseas markets. So this is one, I would say, on the positive side of development, that in India our market share continues to increase. On the dialysis business, we have seen a good offtake of products, because now after the pandemic, earlier the dialyzers which were used in dialysis centers, they were reused 5 to 8 times on one patient. One patient would you reuse the same dialyzer 5 to 8 times. Maybe for 2 weeks or 3 weeks you use the same dialyzer, and because the reason was cost, and also the facilities were charging a lot of high amount for a single-use dialyzer. Now with the change in the scenario because of COVID and because of infection, and basically most of the dialysis patients are immunocompromised. So in this sector also we are seeing more usage of single-use products, and that's the reason we are seeing some offtake in demand of the dialyzers and the renal care products. And for us, that was the right business we picked up a couple of years ago, and of course there was a PLI which was announced for dialysis products, and as I informed you on the last call also, we were successful in getting the PLI, and now we are ramping up the capacity. So by end of this year, from where we started, let's say in the beginning of the year, let's say 1st April 2021, and when we end on 31st March 2022, we'll be already ramping our capacity by 3 times from that level when we started in the beginning of the year till the time we end of the year. So there's a huge investment we are making in this business right now, and we have a new infrastructure coming in which will be operational next year, as I told you last time. But in the current plant itself, we are adding capacity and equipment to ramp up the capacity. On the diagnostic business, we are already looking at some new product areas. We think that especially for rapid tests and RT-PCR tests, which are not only for COVID, for other products, we want to add that range of products, because we today cater labs. During the crisis, COVID crisis, even there was a shortage of blood collection tubes. So many labs which were earlier not buying any products from us, they immediately approached us and asked us, because they were importing, dependent on imports. So they asked us to immediately supply these products to us. And fortunately, we had the production of these items. We had enough raw material, so we could cater that demand also. So now we have got relationships which are into bigger labs. We have good relationships with good dialysis. Today we are supplying in NephroPlus, DCDC, a lot of other dialysis chains in the country, in Apex. So we have got inroads now in major dialysis centers, major labs, and that is helping us to even grow our domestic business on that front. On the export front, I think mainly the exports were in European region. So 45% of our exports were in Europe, because Europe we were easily able to find containers and able to ship material there, though the rates have also increased by 3 to 4 times, but the customers had a cushion, and they could pay for higher freight costs, and they could take the material. So Europe is recovering also, as we see, faster from COVID pandemic as compared to any other country. More people are vaccinated there. So that is also one good development. We have also now decided to open a UK rep office. Last time we were talking about US business, and I'll tell you very shortly about that. We are also now opening a UK rep office. We've taken a formal board approval, and we'll be opening a UK rep office where we'll be posting one person from India to take care of the UK business, because UK also offers a great potential. We currently have already 3-4 large customers, and I think we have a discussion with them to further increase, more products to NHS. And many of our products are today going into NHS supply chain. So we are hoping that we can increase business by being present there. More direct presence will help us to get closer to customers and understand the needs. So that is one of the reasons we decided to do that. On the US front, yes, our CEO has relocated now to North Carolina, and now we are opening an office there. We have set up a new company out there. This was decided in the previous board meeting, and we are capitalizing this company as we speak. And once we capitalize, we'll be hiring more people out there. We're also going to set up a small R&D center there to fast track polymers R&D in India. So the engineers working in US will be able to probably perform better with their guidance also. So I think whatever we saw a major lack, we are trying to fulfill that gap basically. And also we are hiring salespeople in US so that we are now building the organization. And as when we get our FDA approvals, we'll do pre-market studies and pre-market testing. So all these people who are getting hired there will help us to achieve that. So that's an update on the US. And hopefully next 3-4 months, we'll be able to start selling something in the US. We are also going to manufacture syringes for immunization. I already informed you in the last call. So that project is on stream, and there will be a huge demand because already, if you read yesterday's newspaper, Israel is going to vaccinate the third time its elderly population. That means they're talking about booster dose. So it clearly is showing that the vaccine which we are getting may be only there for, the potency of the vaccine may be there for a 6 months to a 9 months period, and we may have to get revaccinated. So I think the demand for vaccination syringes will also be there for a long time. So I think though we are a little delayed in launching this product, but I think it's the right moment because the market is there. There will be a demand, huge demand, because if they're going to vaccinate 2 times or 3 times people of India every year, so there will be demand of at least 4 billion syringes only for this COVID vaccination. And there are almost other 15-20 other vaccinations that people get from time to time, whether it's flu or different vaccines which children get when they're born. So we think, and then there's a curative market for syringes for normal work. So there is a potential for syringes which we didn't start earlier, but we'll be now. We are already setting up a manufacturing line to make these products. And on the policy front, I think government has done quite a lot at this moment. They have done risk-based classification of 2,000 plus medical devices, and every day we see a new list coming in from the government because they are preparing for the 1st October 2021 deadline, which will make compulsorily for companies to register their products with CDSCO. And currently, the policy was completely missing, and now the government has taken a very firm step to regulate all medical devices. And by 31st March 2023, all medical devices for in the country will be regulated. So that's good news for companies like us because the government's intent was there, but it was not being let's say, implemented. But now, with whatever we are seeing today, they are working in fast-track mode to implement that process. They have also hired 172 new medical device officers, so which will regulate this industry, and I think that's also a big, I would say, good news for us. Third thing is, our nodal ministry was Department of Pharma, and we were regulated by MOH. And both these ministries were not working in tandem, and we were always unclear who is our parent ministry. But I think after recent reshuffle, government made it clear that there will be only one minister for Ministry of Health and for Department of Pharma. So now it comes under one ministry. So there will be a lot of unification of information and also data, which was completely, working in opposite directions. So now at least that part will also speed up because the policy framework is done by Department of Pharma for us, and the regulation is done by Ministry of Health. So that unification will also strengthen the whole process of regulating the medical device industry much faster. Another area which we see is government capping trade margin of medical devices. You have seen that government has capped pricing of BP monitors, nebulizers, thermometers, glucometers, pulse oximeters, and a couple of other products. And now the margin available in the system is only 70% the markup, Earlier the market was 300%, 400%, which you all have seen in the case of oxygen concentrators. A product imported for 17, 18,000 was being sold for around 70, 80,000 in the market. And there was no way government could control their MRP or end user price. So now government has, come out with a policy where they have started capping the margins for devices used for even for COVID or even non-COVID cases. They are already working now. So what this will bring in? This will bring in more sanity in the industry, because this industry was almost out of control in terms of putting MRP. Today, a thermometer just costs 50 rupees to import, but the MRP is 300 rupees or 400 rupees. Or for example, a nebulizer machine is costing 600, 700 rupees, but the MRP on the machine is 3,000 rupees. So ultimately, you are taking away the ability of the end user to buy more products, because if you are going to price it 4 times, 5 times as a MRP at chemist level, then you are taking away the affordability and accessibility of these products to a common man. So I think with this capping, I think one is regulation of the device. Second is bringing it in a price level where you are increasing affordability, so the consumption will increase. So I think that's also a positive move from the industry side, and we were already batting from the industry side to the government that they should regulate the margins for medical devices, because they were completely. And you also know, in case of stents, a stent which was costing 25,000 rupees was priced at 1,50,000 rupees. So government capped the price of stents also in 2017. It doesn't impact the manufacturers. It's only the trade margin. So from price to distributor to end point, there's only a 70% margin now. So I can price my product at 100 rupees or 200 rupees, doesn't matter. But the MRP, suppose my price is 100 rupees to distributor, my MRP has to be 170 rupees. So it's not that it is going to impact our margin. It is taken away the margins of the trade channel, which was very absurd and very, very high. Also, there is a PLI 2 scheme now, from the government of India for medical sector. So now the diagnostic sector is also now covered in PLI, as Polymed is already in diagnostic business. So we are also looking at applying for PLI 2, which will cover some diagnostic products, and we are pretty hopeful that once we make an application, we'll follow it up and see if we can successfully get this scheme. So that's one of the areas for us for future growth and for future development. In terms of, and I'll come back to the operations of the company in terms of margins. Yes, I think as we compare with Q1 of last financial year and this Q1 of this financial year, our revenue grew by almost over 24%. And in spite of all the pandemic issues and everything, we're able to run the plants, and I think I've discussed that already. Also, the profit margin, if you compare Q1 to Q1, has also increased in terms of absolute numbers. Yes, there is a dip in terms of small EBITDA margin by 100 to 150 pips, and the main reason for that is high raw material costs and high freight costs, which is having a high bearing on our input costs. But though the costs have increased in multiple times, but we were able to hold off these costs by better inventory management, better productivity, and also working on cost reduction program, a lot of cost reduction programs. So we were still able to maintain a healthy margin in spite of all these challenges. And of course, some of the costs we have also passed on to customers. Gradually, step by step, we are doing that exercise. Of course, at the time of pandemic, it is sometimes not prudent to start asking customers for price increase, because everybody is struggling to get products and also to struggling for cost management. But gradually, we are working on this, and hopefully, maybe over the years, we may be able to get some small price increases from customers to mitigate these small dip in margins we have today. But overall, I think the performance was satisfactory, as we see at the management level. And going forward, I think we still maintain our guidance for a 17-18% growth, overall growth for this financial year, and also margins to be in the north of 25% plus, EBITDA margins to be in north of 25% plus. And I think industry is poised for a growth. Medical device sector has got a good recognition now, and today medtech industry has been a flavor of the season, because if you look at last 18 months, from PP kits to N95 masks to oxygen concentrators to ventilators,
Ladies and gentlemen, the line of the speaker got disconnected. Please stay connected while we reconnect him back. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for patiently holding in the line. The line of Mr. Himanshu Bed is reconnected. Thank you, and over to you, sir.
Sorry, everybody, I got disconnected. I don't know why, but so I was talking about the recognition the medtech industry has received from the government, and I think because of high import dependence, I think there's a lot of focus now to make products in India, and we have already seen almost 250 companies making masks in India or PPE kits or making ventilators. There are 8 to 10 ventilator manufacturers now in the country. Some companies have started making oxygen concentrators. So because of this pandemic, I think there was a realization that India needs to be self-reliant. And that's the reason medtech industry has got so much attention today. And I think as I chair the CII National Medical Technology Forum, I am also in the CII Healthcare Council. So I'm doing a lot of advocacy work also with the government to ensure that this industry, is well recognized. There are incentives for the industry. We are also now talking to the government to wherever we have zero import duty on medical equipment. There's already a list of 97 items published by the Finance Ministry, in which there are few medical items which were at zero duty, and we are pushing the government to remove that zero duty, which was given exemption to these products, and impose a duty, so that in India, once there is a duty which is maybe 7.5% duty on these products, because all the medtech products which are currently imported into the country carry a 7.5% duty. Only few products are in the exempted list, and we are requesting the government to
Ladies and gentlemen, the line of the speaker got disconnected again. Please hold the line while I reconnect you.
फिर वापस डिस्कनेक्ट हो गया.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for patiently holding the line. The line of Mr. Himanshu Bed is connected back. Thank you, and over to you, sir.
Sorry, friends. I think we have heavy rain in Delhi right now. I think maybe that is causing a bit of disruption. But I'll stop here now, and I think maybe Vinay, you can open the line for questions. Or, questions if anybody has any question. Thank you very much for patiently listening to me, and I wish you all good health, and also wish you, success. Thank you.
Sure, sir. Ruchita, you can maybe announce for the question. Make the announcement.
Thank you very much. We will now begin the question and answer session. Anyone who wishes to ask a question may press star and 1 on the touchtone telephone. If you wish to remove yourself from the question queue, you may press star and 2. Participants are requested to use handsets while asking a question. Ladies and gentlemen, we will wait for a moment while the question queue assembles. The first question is from the line of Swapna Jawar from Dolat Capital. Please go ahead.
Hi. Thank you for taking my question. Hello, Himanshu sir. Thank you for the detailed presentation. So, a few clarifications. Firstly, when I see your this quarter's performance versus the last quarter, that is fourth quarter, sequentially, it looks pretty much the same. So, one, have we seen any incremental price hikes between these two quarters? I remember last quarter you did mention about the hike in the polymer prices and the other raw materials.
Yes.
But has that been stable in this quarter, or there's been an incremental increase?
No, there is an incremental price hike, Sapna, because if you see crude oil prices have been increasing constantly over last 3 to 4 months. And
so
because
we've been able to maintain our gross profits or gross margins.
Yeah, so as I told you, we're doing a lot of cost-saving projects right now in terms of, and we have also taken some sustainability projects inside the company. And we have taken a target, can we reduce consumption of, let's say, plastics in packaging and in paper in packaging. So can we reduce it by 4 or 5% over the whole year? I think that itself will be a huge amount. And I think we are talking to already customers. So if there is an extra packaging on the product, if there is an extra, let's say, can we increase number of units per box so that, we can ship more so that the overall freight cost reduces. So we are working on a lot of these cost-saving projects, efficiencies in manufacturing. So that will help us to maintain, a similar margin.
Sure, thank you. Also, you also did allude that the first 2.5 months was pretty much disruptive in terms of working.
Yeah.
So I could see that our personal cost, yes, sequentially it's been on the similar lines, but the other expenses, though sequentially has been some increase. But then this was largely because of, if you could explain this amount, the other expenses which was high, like 32% on a YOY basis.
Yeah.
What does this largely comprise of?
So Naresh, can you answer this, please?
Yes, sir. So this other expenses, majorly the increase is in only one head, which is sales and distribution, the outbound logistic cost. So there we have seen some increase. Rest, more or less, all the other heads like legal, professional, maintenance and all are almost flat as compared to the last quarter. The only increase is just because of the outbound freight.
Outbound and inbound freight also.
Yeah.
That helps. Thank you so much. Also, on the investment in the US, now we are hiring new people, setting up the R&D center.
Yeah.
So how much investments are we going to put up in the US market, and was this already in process, or this is a new development?
This is a new development, Sapna. So we had hired a CEO last year, if you remember.
Right.
Closed that, and because of the pandemic, Kim Shelby, who was the CEO, was not able to function because most of the people are working from home. It was very hard to manage new relationships. And now he's moved to North Carolina, and now because we looked at the region, why we looked at the region? Well, there's Research Triangle Park there, and as we wanted to look at more research-oriented products in future, and if we want to enter the US market, we need to be very high up on the R&D scale. See, currently we spend around only 2% on our revenues on R&D. So we also wanted to, go deeper into R&D space, and knowing that, North Carolina has a lot of good pool of medtech engineers, it made prudent to move our, future office and maybe a small R&D base in that city, in that region, so that, we can, and from the investment front, I think, see, initially, we are hiring 3 or 4 people there, couple of R&D engineers, couple of salespeople, and then we start building up the company. So maybe in next 2 to 3 years, the investment will be around $2-3 million, which is not very big today, but that will help us to attain, at least understand the market, do preclinical trials, look at new product, and also, develop new ideas, new products for customers with support of Indian team, where we have 60 engineers working here. So everything will work parallel.
So we'll be developing products there, but the manufacturing will still happen in India.
Of course, the manufacturing will happen in India.
And we are waiting for FDA approval. So how long does this process take to get
Sapna,
an
it takes
approval?
around what I also explained the same process last time, that you have to file your documents. We do it with a third party first. They review the full documentation, and if there are any, let's say any problems in the document, they will find out the discrepancy and they will point it out to us. So now the third party review has been completely done for one of the product categories, and now we have filed the document with US FDA. So they will review it, but based on the third party review, that the whole process is fast tracked. So we expect
Does that mean we have a physical inspection also here?
No, they can come anytime they want. There's no physical inspection for approval.
Sure. And so any
But they can come anytime for inspection.
Got it.
Yeah.
And once they inspect and approve our facilities, only then we will be able to launch our product.
No. It's not dependent on the inspection.
Achha. So
Based on the documentary approval, they will give you an approval to start selling the products in the US. But after the approval is granted, they can come any time to inspect your facility.
Understood. Also, any color on what type of product categories shall we be launching
Sapna,
first?
this is some confidential information I can't share on the call, please.
Got it. Sure. I have more questions. I'll join back the queue. Thank you.
Thank you. Participants who wishes to ask a question, please press star and 1 now. The next question is from the line of Venkat from 3 Sigma Financials. Please go ahead.
The opportunity. Sir, we have one R&D center in Europe as well, if I remember right.
We have a manufacturing, Venkat. We don't have R&D. We have manufacturing in Europe, in Planvan Health, which is a manufacturing company.
I see. Fantastic.
Yeah.
The next question I have is, how would these regulations actually help? Because we are already a good product. The certification is like, 70% of our sales come from Europe, which itself is a validation.
Yeah.
So how would these Indian rules actually help us?
So if you see, Venkat, what is happening is today, because there is no regulation, the fly-by-night operators come in. Anybody who doesn't have any expertise in medical device sector starts selling medical devices or starts manufacturing medical devices, and then the quality is compromised. So what is happening is today when I go to a hospital, they say, oh, you are an Indian company. Now there is other Indian companies which don't have standards. I may say I have standards, but they don't even relate to that. So once everything is made as per standard in the country or imported as per standard in the country, at least there will be a level playing field, which is not there today. Now it's like, a pharma company making without any license, a pharma product, and some company, a large pharma company making with license and following all the regulatory requirements. So definitely, there will be difference in quality, difference in pricing, everything will matter a lot. Here I may follow best standards, everything, but my price is higher. But somebody who doesn't follow it, his price is lower and he undercuts in the market and nobody understands what's happening.
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
And then what would be the benefit of this one? So how much revenue we might...
You can't quantify this. Can you really quantify? You can't.
Got it.
Yeah, you can't quantify. But the important thing is, one is for patient safety. Our concern is that for patient safety, all medical devices sold in this country should be regulated. Number one, they should be standard for all medical devices sold in the country. Because today you may buy a thermometer, is it really calibrated?
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
So the next question I have is, we have people like Johnson & Johnson who are, I don't want to ask you what products you are going to launch in US, but there are companies like Johnson & Johnson who are like deep rooted into American American medical system actually. How do you think we'll be able to compete with them?
See, I think it's not about competing with a large player. It's about the product, what you have in your hand.
Okay.
See, today American healthcare system is struggling with costs.
Okay.
And there are around, year on year, they have deficits in the healthcare system. So today, lot of companies, large companies in the US or large GPOs are looking for, like for example, take the example of Cardinal. Cardinal is a GPO. They buy everything what they sell in medical device around $20 billion. Can we get into Cardinal and say, okay, we can give you products. These are our products. This is what we have let's say, these are capabilities, and can you start buying products from us? And we are US FDA registered.
Okay. Got it.
Yeah.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Best of luck.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Rajiv Venkatesh, an individual investor. Please go ahead.
Thanks for giving me an opportunity. I have a couple of questions. Currently, what's the renal division products adding to the top line, and how do you see the product mix changing happen over a period of time? And a follow-up question on this is, do we have plans of expanding in Southeast Asia and like Singapore, Malaysia, Indonesia? Can these markets provide us better opportunities considering the population in the Southeast Asia and other parts of Asia Pacific?
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. I'll answer the first one and then the second one. So the renal business was around 35 to 36 crores in FY21. And now, as we are part of the PLI scheme, and we are looking at growing to around, let's say, at least 7 to 8 times from that level in next 5 years. That's the plan for renal business. And year on year, as we build up more manufacturing capabilities, we will be, putting more products in the market. So, and I think there is enough scope today because 95% is import dependent. So I think once we start manufacturing in the country, and we are already doing it right now, we are already seeing a lot of traction pull being created in this business. And in 4 to 5 years, of course, the top line of company also will change, but probably renal will become maybe 15 to 20% of that total business going forward, which is currently maybe around 5-6%. And so there is a lot of traction happening in that direction. Then looking at the Southeast Asia business, we are already present in Indonesia, Malaysia, Philippines, Vietnam, Thailand. We are already present, but we have a scanty presence right now, which is not very significant. But what we are doing is we have identified key markets in the world, and in those markets we will start putting more people out there. For example, you have heard about our US, what we are trying to do in US. We have a presence in Europe through a manufacturing company, and also we have a CO out there. So similar thing we are planning to do for Southeast Asia, where this group of 4 or 5 countries can be managed by a regional office, and they can manage sales, they can manage clinical trainings, they can manage product trainings. So all that we are trying to build up in Southeast Asia. Probably this will happen maybe in next 12 to 18 months. But we already have a presence in all these countries through distributions.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, this was the last question for today. I would now like to hand the conference over to the management for closing comments.
Thank you very much once again for patiently listening to me. And I know this industry is new to everybody, but I think the lot of information which I have given out today or in the previous calls will help you to understand this industry better. And also we are also hearing that many more companies are planning to get listed in the stock market in the next 4 to 6 months. I think that will also expand the understanding of the investor community about the industry, medtech industry. And I think medtech industry is bound to actually grow at a much higher pace in coming years because of healthcare, the investment in healthcare infrastructure, government, bringing more ICU beds, because the percentage of ICU beds is very less in hospitals today. Maybe around 20% beds are ICU beds and 80% is normal beds. But I think the future in next 3 to 4 years, most of the hospitals are changing the model and trying to bring that flexibility of going from 20% to 35-40% in critical care and maybe 40% in the normal bed space. So with that investment happening, I think the consumption will further increase. And I think with government focus on Make in India, I think the Indian medtech industry has a great future. This is what I can tell all my friends out there. And we'll continue to work hard and deliver. And our goal is to make affordable products and keep everybody healthy. Thank you very much for patiently listening to me, and wish you good health and good luck. Thank you.
Thank you. On behalf of ICICI Securities Limited, that concludes this conference. Thank you for joining us, and you may now disconnect your line.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.